I have a new YouTube video.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
End credit scenes have been a huge part of Marvel since the beginning. Early on, before there were huge alien level world threats that each character would talk about in their own movies, the largest way these films were tied together was through the end credit scenes. And this created one of the most important feelings for moviegoers: anticipation. After Iron Man, we meet Nick Fury, who presents the idea not just for this phase but for the future entirely. He wants a team. After Hulk, the character we first meet steps towards the character we just met, once again talking about this whole team idea. We also get Coulson finding the hammer, which sets up a new character who will be in that very team. In that fourth film, we then meet characters. One is presumed dead but shows up in the end credit scene, which directly tees up his presence in the Avengers film, and Captain America is also recruited at the end of his film. And the same can be said on the lead up to Endgame. End credit scenes mainly consisted of teasing up the villain Thanos, while setting up characters that we would almost immediately see on our route to Thanos. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say Marvel has changed the formula even now, but has anyone else noticed how it's been a while since they had the same level of excitement, or maybe even more importantly, fulfillment from the end credit scenes of most Marvel projects since the end of the Infinity Saga? I know this isn't the most important thing in the world. I haven't really seen anyone else touch on it, and I'm just curious if other people feel the same way. I think it's way too easy to write off any problem with a modern day superhero film as just superhero fatigue, as we know that that's something that just isn't true, or at least isn't true yet. Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians Volume 3 prove that if you create a great story made with love, then people will show up for it, superhero or not. And you'd think that in an ever-expanding world, the end credit scene should be something that thrives, not falters. But the main problem with these scenes is the main problem I think people had with the TV shows, which is they feel that they just don't matter. I think for most people, 3 Marvel films a year is enough to quench their Marvel thirst. But hey, if there's also some shows that are also important to the main story, then yeah, I'll check them out. If you soon realize that those shows don't have as big of an impact on the main story as you thought, then you might start to put less effort in trying to watch them. I know a lot of people like the shows, I'm just speaking generally, or maybe just to prove my point, I don't know. But if you then relate that idea to the end credit scenes, it's kind of the same. Oh, the scenes are important to the story and the next? Then sure, I'll wait. But if you watch enough of them and you realize maybe they're actually not, then you might stop putting in that time. And I realize that time is only a couple of minutes, but people's attention spans are only getting shorter, and sometimes that wait feels like an eternity. And if it's just to see something that you then deem as pointless, then you may stop doing it. Throughout the first 3 phases, you get introduced to characters like Fury and Wanda, teased characters like Thor, and now you still get introduced to characters, but so far those characters have been Hercules, Harry Styles, and Pip the CGI monster troll. And it feels like we could easily never see any of them again. Although, to be fair, seeing Pip the troll once was more than enough. It feels like there are so many franchises within this franchise, with so many characters that they are struggling to keep track of. It's constantly set up with no promise of payoff, and I think the second issue would be that there is no clear through line. They feel incredibly vague. The Guardians end credit scene sees this new team assembled, a team who will be effectively new already from the closing scenes of the film, but now we get to see them run in slow motion for the first time together, I guess. And I feel like the monsters they end up fighting or the people they are protecting should have some kind of connection or relevance, or just change the scene completely and have them traveling in the spaceship leaving Earth after they dropped off Quill, and they pass like a space station or like a satellite orbiting the planet with like a Fantastic Four logo on the side, or just something easy like that. Just an easy tee up for a future movie they have coming out, something with at least some direction. But I think the reason they just don't do these things much anymore is Marvel is far less planned as we would like to believe. They can't really put things in stone, as they are constantly changing ideas. Like when they left the symbiote at the end of No Way Home, it kind of felt like this is more just like an option instead of like a tee up or a plan. Overall, I think they know they want like this big multiversal fight of all these characters coming in and fighting each other, and they know like a general way in which they want to get there. But vague and general aren't clear enough when it comes to trying to make connected short scenes that have a through line and overarching story. I think for the most part, people like each film to be its own film. You could argue some people's problem with the MCU Spider-Man is they don't do that enough. People like each director being able to make something that's fully theirs with their vision, and I agree to that. I think the film should be a place to tell the best story for whichever character. It doesn't need to be weighed down by previously set up MCU events that may end up detracting from those characters and how their story should be told, whether that's Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four. With that being said, I think there needs to be like one team who basically directs all end credit scenes with a clear plan and through line, as end credit scenes really have the power to tie these movies together, leave impactful cliffhangers and set up important upcoming characters. Now, even though I was like making fun of the Eternals end credit scenes, and I still will, I think they actually might have the best pair out of recent films, because even though it's Harry Styles and the world is still unsure whether he is an actor, it introduces him as Thanos' brother, which is just interesting to have a character that ties the old story to the new one they're telling. And the second scene sets up like the future of Dane and introduces like Blade. So aside from maybe some interesting casting choices and just poor CGI, I think fundamentally it's a really strong pair of end credit scenes. There's intrigue, like whose voice was that? There's setup, and it feels important. Like that's literally Thanos' brother, and Blade's already confirmed. Compare that to Doctor Strange and Thor, who have really poor ones. Doctor Strange effectively has one. Doctor Strange getting in trouble for breaking the rules again. This has maybe small intrigue into the ramifications and set up because who's she? But I'm unsure if they'll do a third Doctor Strange film and even address whatever the fuck they're going on about here. Although after how Ant-Man ended, I do have some hope that these moments lead to something. The Thor ones are just awful though. I can't imagine they make a fifth Thor, and if they do, that's just a problem in itself. With this all being said though, I can see a world where both the Marvels and Thunderbolts have really cool end credit scenes. The Marvels one may be Skrull related, and the Thunderbolts one could have like a ground level threat revealed that fans love, maybe, but we will see. Or maybe they'll just both take the opportunity to introduce the other 4 members of One Direction.